Hello, good evening, and welcome to the midweek edition of News at 10. I'm Stephen NT. First, let's start with the news highlights for the day. Investigations have revealed TV3's investigations have revealed two more companies involved in Bost's contaminated fuel deal. MarkWest and Translogis have been cited in the sale of the 5 million litres of contaminated fuel. Meanwhile, an 8-member investigative ministerial committee has been set up to probe the deal. Energy Minister Boakye Ejiako, who made this known, hinted the committee will have to recommend whether or not the managing director of Bost be interdicted should his position interfere with investigations. The immediate past members of Parliament's Finance Committee have been cited in an alleged bribery scandal. The National Lottery Authority is reported to have spent some 150,000 cedis to facilitate the passage of the National Lottery Act in 2016 in the form of allowances to members of the Select Committee on Finance after it organized a workshop for them on amendments to the new Lottery Act 722. Meanwhile, over 1.5 billion cedis has been allocated to the District Assembly's Common Fund for the year 2017. The amount saw a decrease of about 28%. Parliament has meanwhile adopted the report of the formula for the distribution of the fund. Remember, we're live on our Facebook page, and you can also hear us on 3FM 92.7. Let's start with some stories now. The immediate past members of Parliament's Finance Committee have been cited in an alleged bribery scandal. The National Lottery Authority is reported to have spent some 150,000 cedis in allowances to members of the Select Committee on Finance to facilitate the passage of the National Lottery Act in 2016 after it organized a workshop for them on amendments to the new Lottery Act 722. The decision to receive the money has raised questions about the propriety of Parliament receiving money for work for which MPs already draw salaries from the state. Let's do some analysis now. Dr. Rashid Dramani is Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He's joining us on telephone. Good evening, Doc, and thank you. We're grateful you could join us. So your work, we know, involves liaising with various parliaments in Africa and elsewhere. I want to find out from you whether it is usual practice for parliamentarians to demand money from institutions to facilitate the passage of a law.
Well,
hello, Doc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, normally it's not the parliamentarians who demand it. I think the conditions in Parliament what give rise to this challenge, because the Parliament of Ghana often does not have all the resources that it needs in order to fund every single activity of committees and of the institution. So over the years, we've come to see that there's a practice whereby the parliamentary committees get supported by the various departments and agencies that they are supposed to oversee. In the past, this has raised some questions. This has raised some eyebrows. At the beginning of the 6th Parliament, the Right Honorable Dua Jaho, right at the early stage, said that this was one practice that he was going to try to stop because it's not giving Parliament a good image. It's creating possible issues of conflict of interest and so on. But I believe Honorable Dua Jaho has left, and this issue is still with us.
But this is something you agreed with him?
No, I think these were comments that he made at one of the programs that we organized at the early stages of his leadership of the Sixth Parliament. And I think it was because of the fact that, because, I mean, these were practices that he has observed over the years and so on, based on some of the structural challenges that we have in Parliament. So for me, I think I believe that it is important that we need to go back to the issue of paying attention to the independence, that's financial autonomy of Parliament. A number of countries are moving towards a direction where these days they set up what do you call it, an oversight fund, or if you like, some parliamentary fund, which is dedicated specifically to helping parliamentary committees and members fund the activities that they are constitutionally mandated to undertake. Because without a doubt, Stephen, if you have a government department or a government agency paying even just simply the hotel and the food of members of Parliament to go and consider a document and to go and have a discussion with this agency during which they are supposed to answer questions, during which they are supposed to account for their stewardship, account for how they use their power and so on. You get the same agency paying these bills. It raises some perception. Even if it's not real, it raises some perception of conflict. And so I think, just like the other scandals that we've seen in the recent past, I believe what would make a very big difference is if the leadership of our Parliament today will look at this issue and say, look, we have a big problem on our hands. And the only thing that will make a difference is when we tackle this problem head on. A number of parliaments in the advanced democracies of this world, the Parliament of the UK, the Parliament of Canada, they face similar scandals, I mean, in recent times. But what made the difference was that they looked at these issues and said, look, we are not going to run away from this. We are not going to say, I mean, we are going to shield any member of Parliament. This is a problem on our hands, and we have to stop it. So impunity was given a stop. And I think those parliaments were able to renew themselves and their integrity was restored. And I expect, hopefully, that our leaders will learn a lesson because, you know, this is becoming too many, Stephen.
I can imagine.
From January to now, I mean, I think every 2 months there's something about Parliament.
About Parliament.
It's not good news. It's bad news.
I know you raised earlier at the beginning of our discussion issues of capacity of the institution of Parliament. So if we take, for example, the NLA payment of 150,000 towards some of these things, are you able to say, for example, which forms of services such money usually go into? Will it be provision of food? Will it be a payment of venues or what? What exactly do such sums go towards?
Well, I think usually, you know, we had one member of the previous finance committee this afternoon. I think he mentioned that the money, some of it went into payment of their rooms, and some of it was their allowances, I mean, night allowance, as he called it. He said he signed and took some money. You know, we don't know all these things, but I believe as journalists, you can find this out.
Exactly, we can.
I think you can find this out because if somebody from NLA took 150,000, I think he or she must be able to back it up in terms of where the money went to. So we can ask Royal Senchi how much was paid. We can ask if there were expenses for food, I mean, I believe all those will be receipted.
Right.
And then the member said, one member said he signed, so that means maybe other members also signed. And I mean, all these, when they are put together, at least they will give you a sense of whether the 150,000 actually went into monies directly to members, or some of it went into
the pockets of other people, maybe some corrupt officials of the
But
NLA.
honestly, Stephen, I think it's about time that the leadership of our parliament took a very serious look at the issues that relate to the integrity of the institution. Otherwise, we wake up someday and people will just say, this is not a serious institution. I mean, we are going to disregard whatever is coming out of that institution. We don't want to get to that point.
We don't, obviously. Dr. Rashid Dramani, we're grateful. Thank you very much for your time. This is still News at 10. We're live on TV3, and also you can hear us on 3FM 92.7. If you have the TuneIn app, you can also hear us on your mobile phone. We have more news for you. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, there is uneasy calm among the fisher folks along the Cape Coast, along the coast of Ada East and West and Ningo Prampram districts over light fishing, whilst the self-acclaimed light fishermen of Ada are accusing the fisheries minister and the task force of violation. The task force claimed the light fishermen of Ada are threatening to attack them with acid.
Because they are surprised how we managed to effect the arrest of those armed with firearms. They are preparing to face us on the sea with acid. I want them to hear, if they are listening, you are also preparing for them. The preparation we made to arrest them before the firearms and the matches and whatnot, and their juju and all this thing, that plan will come to bear when we face them. So we are warning them that before their diabolic means, we are also well prepared. So either they stop the live fishing, or we are going to fight them, chase them wherever they may be.
We are trying to tell them that if they didn't withdraw them from their participation, then we too being as a human being. Because when somebody have over you, that means the person have a stronger than you, so that you can leave yourself to that person to take you out. But if you have these ammunitions and the catras, you can face the person and you challenge him. David, they have seen that what Goliath is going to do with his sword and all those things. David called God and he will overcome Goliath. That means we call God that what we are going to do to get our daily bread. And these people have a catras and weapons on earth. When they start catering us, we can defend ourselves and take the thing from them. So because
of Parliament are calling on the educational authorities to severely sanction male teachers who impregnate female students to serve as a deterrent. The MPs expressed regret school children as young as 15 are impregnated by some male teachers.
MP for Commander Edina Eguafo Ebrim, Samuel Mills, said in the Central Region alone, about 5,000 schoolgirls were impregnated by men of various professions in 2016.
When you look at the professions of those who impregnated these children, primary school teachers were 301. Tertiary school teachers, there were 48. Small-scale farmers, there were 986. Large-scale farmers, there were 62. Fishermen, there were 295. Lawyers, 4.
Other MPs said parents could partly be blamed for the menace since most of them refuse to provide the basic needs of the children.
If you're a parent and you have money to buy funeral cloth, every now and then we buy new funeral cloths, and your daughter comes to you to get something small for pad, and you cannot give. In a way, you are telling your child to go outside and look for it.
If this is happening, what it also means is that society has failed. Society has failed in taking care of its responsibility. And part of that responsibility is to ensure that children don't give birth to children.
Some called for either dismissal of teachers or severe sanctions for teachers who impregnate such young girls.
Each time a child is impregnated, we have to delve into it, and if it is caused by a teacher, the necessary sanction, we need to pronounce the definite sanctions that has to be applied.
An estimated $6 billion is required to complete 1,200 megawatts of nuclear power plants in Ghana. The Director General of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Professor Benjamin Nyarko, at an editors forum in Accra, indicated the best alternative for Ghana's energy challenges is nuclear.
The infrastructure to be considered prior to the operation of nuclear power program in Ghana have been achieved. This brings to completion phase 1 of 3 phases of the International Atomic Energy Agency for new countries that want to join the nuclear energy producing countries.
How much of the cost can we localize it? So we are working with AGI and stakeholders, that is involvement of the local industries in our nuclear power program. For example, in Ghana, we can estimate that $6 billion for 1,200 megawatts will be enough, but we have not done the actual cost.
Director General of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Professor Benjamin Nyarko, allayed the fears of the public, indicating it is one of the safest alternative energy generating sources, despite accidents recorded in some countries.
When releases occur, what we have to do is to give distance, because radiation travels, and at a certain point it ends there. So that's why in nuclear power plant system, when we are going to be, we have to make sure that the nearest settlement is 20 kilometers away from the place, so that when there's an accident, by the time it gets to 20 kilometers, the decay has decayed and everything is gone.
According to experts, nuclear energy has one of the lowest impacts on the environment of energy source because it isolates its waste from the environment and requires a relatively small amount of land. The Director General said the Commission has achieved all the necessary legislations and regulatory frameworks, including the passage of the Nuclear Regulatory Bill that established the Ghana Nuclear Regulatory Authority, as well as the Ghana Nuclear Power Program.
This is News at 10. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, TV3 investigations have revealed 2 more companies involved in the Boss contaminated fuel deal. McWest and Translodges have been cited in the sale of the 5 million litres of contaminated fuel.
To the National Petroleum Authority, Zoop Oil and Movimpina are both not licensed petroleum service providers. Their activities therefore infringe on Section 11 of the National Petroleum Act, Act 691/2005. The NPA has served notice to take legal action against the 2 companies while it conducts full-scale investigation into the sale of 5 million litres of contaminated fuel to determine the actual quality and quantity of the products allegedly sold by Bost. McWest and Translodges have also been cited in the deal. Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amoah, says Bost must come clear.
Whatever will make them want to shield the other 2, we also deserve and demand to know. Whatever business that has existed between them and Bost, the public is interested. These companies are not licensed players downstream, but Bost is transacting with them. These are the sort of questions that we need a thorough answer to from the committee's investigations.
Meanwhile, an 8-member investigative ministerial committee has been set up to probe the deal. Energy Minister Boakye Jarko, who made this known, hinted the committee would have to recommend whether or not the managing director of Bost be interdicted should his position interfere with investigations.
The Energy Ministry and the National Petroleum Authority have directed the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company BOST to suspend further evacuation of the contaminated fuel. Regulator of the downstream petroleum industry, National Petroleum Authority, following preliminary investigations into the issue, says BOST has so far evacuated a total of 471,000 litres of the said product. Civil society and the minority in Parliament are demanding the interdiction of the Managing Director of BOST, Alfred Obim-Boateng, for his role in the sale of the product.
In view of this, the Ministry is in the process of setting up an 8-member investigative committee into the matter.
The Energy Ministry assured the general public it will ensure that quality petroleum products are supplied in the country. The ministerial committee includes stakeholders from across the sector.
The committee will be made up of the following representatives: the National Petroleum Authority, Tema Oil Refinery, Ghana Standards Authority, the Bureau of National Investigations.
The ministry says it expects a total review of the transaction as part of the terms of reference of the ministerial committee.
We have to take it one step at a time and determine whether indeed for the committee to do its work, the acting managing director will be an interference or not. It shouldn't be presupposed. So we will get to that point and make that determination whether he steps aside in the meantime or stays.
The NPA has confirmed Movimpina and Zap Oil, the two companies alleged to be involved in the transaction, were not licensed to engage the sector. According to the Energy Ministry, the committee should advise on the necessary technical, administrative and legal actions to be taken.
As soon as they begin work, will be given a maximum of 1 month to submit their report to the ministry.
And in other stories, Challenging Heights has welcomed the retention of Ghana on the Tier 2 watch list in the 2017 Trafficking in Persons report of the U.S. State Department. According to the Child Rights Group, the recent emergency efforts to draft a national plan of action to fight human trafficking contributed to Ghana not being downgraded.
Ghana has been on Tier 2 watch list for 2 consecutive years. The law establishing the Trafficking in Human report indicates that a country ranked on the Tier 2 for 2 consecutive years must be downgraded to Tier 3 in the 3rd year unless it shows sufficient progress to warrant a Tier 2 or Tier 1 ranking. The narrow escape means Ghana needs to take the necessary actions to improve on its ranking. At the moment, Ghana government does not fully comply with the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking in humans. All the systems and structures put in place to fight human trafficking have not yielded the desired results. The Human Trafficking Secretariat has been starved of resources for several years. Challenging Heights has called on government to invest at least 20 million cedis each year towards addressing the issue of human trafficking.
All the systems and structures put in place to fight against human trafficking have failed to deliver on their mandates. Either we invest 20 million per year to save victims of trafficking, or we fail to invest anything and we will face the withdrawal of over $600 million in aid and other benefits from the American government.
Also of concern is the turf war between the Child Labour Unit of the Ministry of Employment and the Human Trafficking Secretariat of the Ministry of Gender.
Challenging Heights is therefore calling on the government to merge the 2 units and establish what we call Ghana Human Trafficking Commission, chaired by the president himself, that's the president of Ghana, with the same status as the Ghana AIDS Commission. We believe that that will give the fight against human trafficking a big bite.
Challenging Heights has meanwhile pledged to support government efforts by pushing its 5-year strategic plan, which is aimed at seeing an end to child trafficking.
And that's it for News at 10. Thank you for staying with us. And for those who tuned in to 3FM 92.7, thanks for leaving your dial there. There is more news at 3news.com. On behalf of the crew, good night.